I use secret ingredients and methods to make these incredible Italian meatballs you've never tasted before. And I want this to be kept in your family for generations to generations. Yeah, Alessandro? I'm going to show you how to make the best Italian meatballs you ever made in your life. 500 grams of ground beef or veal, 500 grams of ground lean pork, 1 carrot, 1 celery stick, half brown onion, 2 garlic cloves, 1 egg, 5 tablespoons of pecorino cheese or Parmigiano, 30 grams of dry herbs, which is a mix of dry parsley, dry basil, dry sage, and dry thyme. You can also use fresh, but the fresh ones are not available all year round. 5 slices of a loaf of bread. You also need a bowl with water because we need to soak the bread in water. Some people like to use milk, so you can soak the bread in milk, but water it's just fine. 3 tablespoons of breadcrumbs, 3 teaspoons of salt, pepper, 2 bottles of tomato passata, a bunch of fresh basil for the tomato sauce, extra virgin olive oil. This step, in my opinion, is the most important step when you make meatballs. This is my way of making the meatballs tastier. Okay, what we're going to do is to blend the carrot, the celery, the garlic, and the onion. A nice amount of extra virgin olive oil, and a splash of water. What we have created here, guys, is the bomb of flavors. Look at this. This is a bomb of flavors. This mix will disappear in the meatballs. You won't even know it's there, but the amount of flavors that this adds, it's incredible. Now, half of this will go with the meatballs, half will go in the sauce. Okay, let's make meatballs. I'm gonna use gloves. My nonna never used gloves in her life. So if you make food for your family, don't use gloves. Start from the meat. Now let's get the bread and we soak the bread in there. Squeeze the water out. And now just put the bread in the meatballs. Do you guys know that the bread is the secret to make nice, moist meatballs? Believe it or not, the bread is what makes your meatballs the softest. So using more bread is not a bad thing. The only thing is you don't want to eat just bread, okay? When do I know when it's enough bread? Well, when I mix the meatballs and I see that there's too much bread, then I stop. I do have 4 slices of bread here. Maybe I don't need the 5th one. So what I'm gonna do now, I mix everything and then decide if I need the extra or not. That's what we're gonna do now, okay? So what I'm doing now, I'm squeezing the meat. It's like if it's going through a meat processor, you know, a food processor. Squishing like that, just squash, squash, squash. You basically want the bread and the meat to make love together. I believe we have enough bread in there. We don't need the 5th slice. Now change the gloves and we add the other ingredients. So we have the mixed herbs. Oh, we got the dry herbs. Now let's put half of the carrots, celery and onion mix here. We keep the other half for the sauce. This is a sofrito that your meatballs really need. Now we add the breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs helps to keep the meatballs together. Now we put the pecorino, which is of course extra flavors. Let's put the salt. A nice amount of pepper. Now we break the egg. And now we mix all the ingredients. And again, squash. Like if you play with a Play-Doh. Yeah. Just like that. Ooh, those beautiful flavors. Amazing flavors. Yeah. I learned how to make meatballs from my grandmother and my mom, who they make amazing meatballs. I used to have my food business in Sydney for about 5 years, and I used to make the best meatballs in Sydney, trust me on this. I used to sell thousands of meatballs a week, and this was my recipe, and this is what all my clients love. They couldn't get enough of these meatballs. See, my mom and Nonna, they never made that carrot, celery, garlic and onion mix cream. They never did that. They always cut it into pieces. They also never use dry herbs, always fresh. The reason why I use dry herbs is I think they combine better. They kind of disappear in the mix better. But very important step here is that bread, that you soak the bread. See, as you can see, this is a nice firm consistency, but at the same time, it's soft and tender when you go and eat it. So when you can see that it's been mixed well, you don't have chunks or ingredients, you know you've done the right job, you know you're finished. And now we can make the meatballs, we can shape the meatballs. Before you shape the meatballs, get a large tray and baking paper. A great tip is to have water right next to you. This is crucial. If you have gloves or no gloves, you need to make sure you always have your hands wet, especially the palm of your hand, so we can make the meatballs shapes. Now the size of the meatballs is really up to you. They can be small, they can be large. This is the type of meatballs I like to make on my house for my family, which is about 40 grams heavy, and it's nice. If you guys like the American style spaghetti meatballs, these could also work. Now, the bigger your meatballs are, the longer it takes to cook, and they also could become a little bit drier if they are too big, okay? So I would say this size, it's perfect. This is something the kids love doing. I love to get my kids involved and help me to make meatballs. They will be different sizes, of course, but it's homemade. And when you make it by hand, they don't look the same. Look at that. For me, these meatballs are meatballs I eat on its own, with the sauce, no sauce, and bread. I don't do pasta with these meatballs. When I make spaghetti with meatballs, it's a different recipe. I use tiny little meatballs, and you can watch my recipe on YouTube or on my website, and the meatballs are tiny, and it's a completely different process. This is a serious moment. Usually, you shallow fry the meatballs, or you bake the meatballs, which is fine, they taste great. I've seen some people cooking the meatballs straight in the sauce as they are. But they might break, not the perfect thing to do. But come over here, I have a secret for you. I've discovered the best way to cook the meatballs. What we're going to do is we are going to freeze the meatballs. Oh yeah, we're going to freeze these meatballs to reduce the moisture. And what we're going to do, we're going to cook the meatballs straight from frozen into the hot boiling sauce. And this is the best way to get nice, tender meatballs. The meatballs are resting in the freezer. Now we're going to make a sauce for the meatballs. Okay, so here we go. We put extra virgin olive oil. To cook the meatballs in a sauce, you need a high, deep pot. Now we're adding the mix that we did before. Carrot, celery, onion, and garlic. On a medium-low heat, we are going to cook a sofrito. The sofrito has been cooking for about 3-4 minutes, and I'm going to add a splash of water because I don't want the sofrito to burn and I want to keep it nice and moist. It's been 10 minutes and look how beautiful a sofrito is. See how it's darker in color, but it's not burned. You don't want to burn your sofrito. Now let's be a little bit careful when we add the sauce because this is very hot. So let's put the sauce through the sides of the pan, just like that. Okay, now mix well. See, now the sofrito disappeared in the passata. Now we put the lid on and cook the sauce on a low heat for at least 1 hour.
1 hour later.
These meatballs are straight from the freezer and they're gonna go inside the hot, boiling tomato sauce. The tomato sauce has to be like this, has to be very aggressive, okay? When you put the frozen meatballs in the sauce has to be like this, aggressive. Angry. And now we're going to put one meatball at a time, okay? I'm gonna put it like that. Give a space in between. Don't use a spoon or a fork to move the meatballs around, okay? Because you don't need to, okay? And there's a risk you can break them once they melt. What you wanna do instead, you put the lid on and then you move the meatballs around. Just like that. See, by doing that, you can see the meatballs now covered by the sauce and they don't get stuck to the bottom. We need to cook the meatballs for about 30 to 40 minutes. And this also depends on how big your meatballs are. If you make very, very big meatballs, you need more sauce, you need to cook them longer. But this size meatballs, In 30 minutes, they're ready. The meatballs have been cooking for 30 minutes. Ooh, what a beautiful smell. I can't wait to eat you. All right, the final touch, we need to put basil, and I need your help, Alessandro. Vai, put basil in there, break the basil in the meatballs. Yeah, that was easier. We're adding flavors to the meatballs. Now we'll quickly stir, because now the meatballs are cooked, so we can stir the meatballs. They're not going to break. Yeah? Quickly stir, and now we serve the meatballs. What I like to do first is to put the sauce on top, just like that. This beautiful sauce, nice and thick, look at that. And now let's serve these wonderful meatballs. Look how nice they are, so juicy. Oh, beautiful. This is comfort food at its best. How beautiful these meatballs look. They are incredible. Can you please write a comment below and say thank you so much for sharing this secret recipe with me. I want to show you how moist this is, okay? Now, I've got one meatball here, and I'm gonna use the fork just to cut it, and look how easy it is, right? Look, I'm not putting any pressure, look at that, moist. Look at that, perfectly cooked. Can you see a little bit of bread in there? That bread brings extra softness. Look at that, beautiful. Let's see this. Let's see. I am so proud of my meatballs. What I love the most about this is that the meatballs add flavors to the tomato sauce. So when you combine tomato sauce and meatballs together, oh, you get an explosion of aromas. This is incredible. This is a dish that pleases everyone. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you on the next Vincenzo's Plate video recipe. E ora si mangia. Vincenzo's Plate.